Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're looking at conference finals series props in this video. We're doing a bunch of stuff here to get ahead of these conference finals with one day off here on Monday. We also have a separate episode up with the conference finals futures bets. So we look a little bit more closely at the series prices and how you might be able to manipulate some of that stuff and attack these markets. We're also going to get right into game one for the Pacers and Celtics in a separate episode as well. So plenty of stuff coming your way. Make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along as we're doing each and every game now moving forward throughout the postseason. Also want you to head to thelines.com, use everything that we have up on the site right now, including that prop finder tool, very helpful for everything you're looking for here. Under the NBA tab, a nice tool that you can use to make sure you're seeing all of the odds and lines that we are being given right now from these books in the postseason. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first conference finals prop here from the Eastern Conference where we kick it off.
Yeah, for the series, Miles Turner to go under 7 rebounds per game. People have been hitting these, I could see with the Celtics totals going down, like Horford and Tatum, their rebounds prop per game has gone down because there's such crazy variance because the Celtics have played so many double-digit games one way or another. It's a good bet, right, to like take unders on starters, like in general. Like some of these games, they're just not going to be playing in the fourth. But with Turner, with the Pacers, like they're so balanced, and that goes for their scoring. It also goes for the rebounding. They have 8 guys averaging at least 3+ boards in these playoffs. Turner's at 6.5, and 1.8 of those have been in the offensive end. Boston is allowing the fewest offensive rebounds in the playoffs, just 6.3 per game. So if you take out his offensive rebounds against the Knicks, he had averaged 3.7 defensive rebounds per game. If you take him out against Milwaukee, 6 defensive rebounds, so a little bit more here. But I mean, he was taking advantage of some cross matches with the Knicks, right? When they put Hartenstein on Siakam because they had to. I think this is going to be pretty straightforward for the Celtics. It's just Horford on Turner. And then on the other end, like Turner on Horford, you're going to be way outside the paint guarding the three. Like he's a spot up 3-point shooter at this point. So whoever's guarding Tatum is going to be mixing it up a little bit more in terms of boards. Tatum, the favorite to lead this game and the series in rebounding. He also, like, most of his rebounds success came on short, under 5 feet rebounds. So yeah, like I'm saying, like these long kick out rebounds are not really his forte. Not a super fleet of foot guy. And of course, Boston attempts a ton of threes versus these Knicks and Bucks guys do not. The last relevant matchup, which is, Siakam was on the team at that point. Zinger was playing. He had 12 boards. Aaron Nesmith had 12 boards to lead the Pacers because they were a lot in the intermediate range, right? And Turner only had 5. So I think over the course of the series, we'll see plenty of 5 or 6 rebound games for him, and I don't think we'll see a ton of spike games.
It's fair. I mean, I'm always down to fade Turner. It's a dude I'm not good at betting on, I'm going to be honest with you. I've told that to a lot of people. It's just, we all just have one of those guys where we're like, okay, I think I've got it. This is the game. But we don't have to do it by game. We just got to do it for the series, to your point here with Turner. The rebounding for Turner is interesting. It's always so interesting to me when you get guys who are standing on the 3-point line like he is, as well as now you've got Horford who's standing on the 3-point line as well. And then you'll probably get some of that from KP. You'll get a little bit of him rolling to the rim a bit more in that pick and roll or even pick and pop, which obviously helps you keep Turner. Then you've also got the logic that like both these teams are going to sling so many threes that like, what's the average distance of the rebound going to be? Like 10 feet essentially on most of these shots. So does that nullify things? I don't really know. I just know that I don't like Miles Turner as a rebounder. So I like this prop. He averaged exactly 7. So I'm assuming if it's 7 on the dot, there's a push capability here, right? In this bet.
Yeah, it's actually 6.9. So excuse me, like 7 would actually be a fail. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's good to understand what you're betting here. So yeah, the 6.9 is definitely relevant, but for the most part, like I would consistently agree with that. Like then you're also looking at maybe some rebounds, like someone's got to get the boards. So yeah, between like Nesmith and Pascal, I think you're in a pretty good position at that point to bank on those guys a little bit more. And they're both honestly playing a bit closer to the basket on defense. I think Nesmith will be brought down there as Tatum goes, come here, come with me, son. We're going to go down into the paint where I'm going to take you. I would, if I'm a Celtics fan, I just hope that that's the case. And I know we're going to talk about some Tatum 3 stuff, which I'm excited to get into. So I'll leave it for that part of the convo. But if I'm a Celtics fan, I hope Jason Tatum goes under his 3-point prop in this series and spends 10 to 12 attempts at the free throw line and is just living there, dominating the worst defensive team down low in the Pacers. So if I'm a Celtics fan, I'd love to to hear all of that, honestly. But let me go to a conference final MVP here. I'm going to take Jaylen Brown. This was one where I was like, oh, this is gonna be like 225 for him and minus 200 for the for Tatum to be the Eastern Conference Final MVP, and so there's gonna be just such a big hold there for the books that like this isn't going to be worth it, and they're giving it to us at plus 500 for him, and that's a lot of what this bet is based on, because there's two ways that I see the Celtics winning this series, or well, I've said there's a lot of ways, but there's two sort of outcomes that could impact this Finals MVP bet, which is like Tatum does so much stuff at the end of games and Jaylen Brown does so much stuff at the beginning of the games that even as close as their totals might be to each other, we give it to Tatum because he did it at the end of games. And that would be the only thing. But I also think Brown is going to be force the issue so much and is going to be licking his chops at the ability to take each of these dudes down low. I mean, it was pretty similar. It's pretty similar to the Cavs series, to be honest. I mean, without Jared Allen in there, it was just like a field day for Jaylen Brown going to the rim. Mobley got a little bit better towards the end of the series, actually ended up getting hurt a little bit, only added to Brown's. But for this one, like, this is the prototypical dude to beat up on this Pacers squad, who was really good during the regular season. I'll say good, slightly above good when it comes to their like transition defense, which is a lot of times what I look at for how a team is going to play against Jaylen Brown. This is a dude that got out in transition as much as anybody in the league and wants to just get it and go, because if he has 1 to 2 defenders in his way and neither of them are bigger than him, he's going to the rim 1-on-2 and he's going to be successful quite a bit. He's sort of does the like almost like the Wes Unseld. Let me just throw it up on the board because I'm probably going to get the rebound and tip in as well when I go up against these dudes. So I also kind of like boards. It's really high for him for his series prep, by the way, on the rebounds, like 6.2. That seemed a little bit out of whack, especially if Kristaps comes back and everybody kind of drops back down into their rebounding. So I'd be careful with that because Tatum and Brown, their rebounds are a little bit dependent on Kristaps not being in there, at least as high as they're projected right now. So keep that in mind. But this is about the points. This is about him going absolutely bonkers versus this team when he played them. Nobody on the Celtics loves a helter-skelter style of play. Say that 5 times fast. Than Jaylen Brown. Nobody, right? And to a degree, Derek White enjoys that as well because he's often left wide open from 3 when you get into those helter-skelter moments and they're getting back on defense. But I would imagine the Celtics are fine giving the Pacers a taste of their own medicine and getting out into transition, which is a huge thing for Jaylen. You look at where they're weakest: free throws, ISOs, post up, and the pick and roll ball handler. And the only reason that Jaylen Brown doesn't pick and roll ball handler more than he does is because you've got so many good ball handlers on the floor that he's actually oftentimes better as an outlet off of that play because now he's got an imbalanced defense going to the rim. That still helps him a ton, right? He took 12 field goals inside the paint per game in 5 games versus this team. That includes 6.5 of them that were inside the restricted area. So he's not finishing with floaters in the extended paint. He's like getting to the bucket. And like we said about Miles Turner, he's not going to be down there to help out too much if he's got to come off of Al Horford in the corner or Kristaps on the wing or in the corner, more in the wing for Kristaps when he finally gets back into the series. But all of that just leads to like Jaylen Brown having space. He started out the series versus this team in the regular season. First 2 games had like 4 total free throws combined. Last 3 games averaged 7 per game, had 8 twice against this team as well in terms of the free throw attempts. Also, then the other 6 shots that he's taking, because he's at about almost 20 versus this team, are from the mid-range, which he's gotten a lot better at. And his mid-range is like, 12 feet. He's not taking long twos. He's definitely getting to his spot about 10 to 12 feet away. And he's become pretty money with that shot. Took 6 of them against the Pacers in the regular season, made almost 4 of them in that situation. So it really, that's where you score. Anywhere inside the 3-point line is going to be available against this team. While Jaylen might be up for some threes here and there, especially in the first quarter, as he's wont to do, he's going to try to set the tone with getting to the bucket. So if he gets his 25 a game, I prefer his over on his series points to Tatum, where I prefer the under because it's all the way up at like 29.2 for him to average that in the series. I think we're both a little bit pretty weary of taking Tatum overs in that sense, and would feel like maybe that leads to going, okay, well, at plus 500, then Jaylen Brown averaging 25 a game might just be good enough to get MVP of this series.
Yeah, I like it. I think they very much become a your turn, my turn offense at times with Porzingis out right now. And so if it's 2 guys clearly trading blows and Brown's shooting way better than Tatum from an efficiency perspective, maybe that gets him over the hump. Tatum being the rebound and assist contributor that he is makes voters typically defer towards him, but like this would be a classic thing where it's like, let's give the co-star the conference finals MVP with Tatum being a massive favorite for finals MVP. And yeah, the attention Indy's going to pay to him, run him off the 3-point line. That's what I'm talking about here, which is Tatum to average under 2.6 threes per game for the series. Interested in game one under, which is 2.5 once again, and better odds for that. But I think if you go over the course of the series, like you get a little bit more account for some of that variance, which is how the Celtics play. It's like you don't know who's going to get a ton of attempts up here, but like clearly, while he shot a little bit better in these last three against the Cavs, there's a bit of an emphasis to like stop shooting these step back shots and attack. I mean, that's really been the emphasis all year for Jason Tatum is like, he's like, you don't need to take so many threes, sir. Nobody can stop you going to the basket and operating in the mid range. And now he's going to, I think, get more Nesmith on him than we saw in the regular season where you said is Nesmith and Siakam and back and forth. And Nesmith has at least, earned the badge of stopper for the Pacers after getting Jalen Brunson under control in that series. And he's going to be really amped up for this matchup. He is like too amped up. That's Aaron Nesmith in a nutshell is like, you got to settle down, bud. But that's why he's going to be so aggressive on closeouts, so in his jersey beyond the 3-point arc that Tatum's going to have plenty of opportunities to get by him, get him in foul trouble, whatever, just keep attacking the basket. And he's just had a lot more success when that's his approach. He's shot very poorly in the playoffs over the last three series, going back to the Eastern Conference against Miami, 25%, and only hit 3 trays in 3 of 17 of those games. You're talking about in the second half of these playoffs, he is 1 for 21 from deep. So that's another thing where you consider the blowout potential too, is like some of these second halves weren't close. And so Tatum's just out there like doing his thing. But also when it is close, like you need it to be in the sweet spot, because when it is close, Tatum is taking these tough like mid-range shots. And so is Jaylen Brown. And it's like, well, why did the Celtics why are they doing it that way? But that's just how they've been closing games. Okay, Joe Maz, maybe work on that. And yes, he torched the Pacers from deep the last 2 regular season matchups, 12 for 22, like 8 threes in one of those games. So I'm going to try to zag on that and say the Pacers are going to be trying to run him off the 3-point line, which has been their approach since the All-Star break, is allowing the fewest threes, right? Just run everybody off the 3-point line if we can, but especially let's be aware of Tatum. And, we'll live with Horford or Drew Holiday or whoever is going to wind up taking the 3 as the Celtics try to get him up. So over the course of the series, under 2.6 threes for Tatum.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. I mean, I like I said, I like under on the points for Tatum as well. I just think it's much too high. This is going to continue to sort of drop. We've seen the Pacers drop their pace right against the Knicks all the way to 93. These teams played at like 102, 103 pace during the regular season. That ain't going to be the case for Boston moving forward. I know Boston played slow against 2 of the slowest teams in the league in their first 2 series in the playoffs, but I think that the half court offense is not. It's just not conducive for Tatum taking those threes. I just love that you said. You just were pleading. You just sounded like a Celtics fan pleading with Joe Mazzulla to be like, can we please stop taking step back long 2s at the end of the shot clock? Can we still find a way to go towards the basket before we kick out? Like, it would be so helpful. It would be so much prettier. And I'm sure Joe Maz has spoken to both of his players who probably looked back at him and go, sorry, no, we're going to do what we want here. We're way better than you, Joe Mazzulla from West Virginia University, who couldn't make it to the NBA. I'm joking a little bit here, but that is what they do, is they just sort of take over. That does lead to fewer 3-point attempts in general. And we know this Pacers team is going to run them off the line as much as possible, but and that will lead to some threes for other guys, but I'm still going to take Tyrese Halliburton to be the threes leader in this series. And before I even get into it, would you agree that his biggest competition is Derek White, or do you see anybody else that could sneakily take this from Tyrese in terms of most threes?
Yeah, I mean, I see the Celtics as way too balanced in how they distribute their threes for anybody to be a clear-cut favorite. Like, something unexpected could happen and like Horford just goes unconscious, but like, no, I don't really see D White as being a main threat here. And I'll say right off the bat, yeah, the plus 110 at FanDuel is much better odds than you'll find other places.
Yeah, definitely make sure you shop that if you're going to take a threes leader for the series, because Halliburton's like minus money there on DraftKings as opposed to the plus 110 that I don't think will be around for very long here on FanDuel. So I would take that as soon as you watch this. But I think he's figured out that he needs to fire in order for them to win. Like, I don't know how you could make a case against that at this point after watching Game 7 7, where like his 3-pointers buried the Knicks. Like if there was any shot at them coming back, which they did, by the way, they were down by like 6 or 8 at one point in the third quarter, before TJ McConnell got a steal that just seemed to just then end everything. But really, like the correlation here between his threes and their wins is stark enough for me. In the playoffs now, 3.7 threes made when they win, 3 when they lose, so almost a full 3 fewer. He's taking 4 more attempts is a big part of this. Like even if he's not making them, I would say a bigger stark contrast here is in their wins he takes 10.9 threes, in their loses he takes 6.6 threes. And look, there's a little bit like you might chop that 4 number in half if you want to account for the fact that he plays more minutes when they win because there's been blowouts and then he hasn't had to play the 4th. So obviously there's a few less threes being shot when he's playing fewer minutes. But even if you just dumb that down to like 2 more a game, right? And you say, well, if this game was close, he would have shot 8 threes instead of 6 threes. Fine. It's still almost 3 more that he's shooting. He's shooting 10.9 threes in their wins. And that's just, it's that level of aggression that sets up the rest of the offense in a huge way, right? Plus they were really good attacking the offensive boards from games 3 to 7 against this Knicks squad. And, you know, maybe the banged up Knicks team isn't as good of a rebounding team as the Celtics squad is, which when they're fully healthy, the Knicks are better. But I still think those offensive rebounds will be available for Indy in this one with the lineup that they'll have out there. Some really great rebounding guards, but really helpful for them as well. And when Ben Shepherd gets out there, I didn't think I'd be bringing him up, but dude's been amazing. Either way, all of that is a part of we are better when you shoot threes, Hallie. Even if you don't make them all, shoot them, bro. Like this is not time to share the ball and be like, well, let's get everybody involved. If you look at the defense from the 3-point stance, and I'm treating Derek White as like the biggest threat to him because Derek White is the dude who will take a contested 3, and if he is in the midst of an unconscious shooting spree, he will make most of those, as we saw him go 7 for 12 and 5 for 9 and for Derek White. That's going to be a key focus for them. It's like this dude ain't allowed to do it. Now Dante still got his stuff off in the Knicks series, so like you can worry about that. It's not like they're just going to automatically be able to shut Derek White down, especially when you've got 4 other dudes on the court that can shoot. But that level of spread it outness, for lack of a better word, that's an actual word, is why you also like Derek White not to necessarily be always the guy pulling that 3. But at the end of the day, like Halliburton coming around screen after screen after screen because they would do anything to get him to take the 3 instead of God love you, Andrew Nembhard, who was awesome, and Aaron Nesmith, who was 2 for 2 in Game 7 last. Like that ain't it, right? Like I'll continue to take an under 1.5 3-point prop for a guy like Aaron Nesmith. I'll continue to take under 1.5 threes for a lot of these guys, and for Hallie, I'll continue to feel great when it's down at 2.5, and if it's at 3.5 or plus money, like it is in this first game, Game 1, where you can still get like plus 102 for him to make 4 threes. That's going to continue to be the case. So I'm going to ride with him in the way that he's been playing. If you look at the last thing I'll say here is 4.1 made threes against the Knicks after not even really taking very many in the first 2 games, or the first game of this series when he was sort of scolded himself, as well as I'm sure some coaches did, to say like, Halliburton, shoot the ball from deep, please shoot the ball from deep. And then that's when he started going ballistic. 9.4 attempts that he ended the series with after a couple games of only having like 5 to 6 attempts from deep. So yeah, I'm going to ride with him to keep shooting 9 to 10 threes per game because that's what it's clearly has taken for them to win. If he's going to make 3 a game or so, that's definitely going to be good enough. He's already crushing Derek White. They're close in the average threes, but once we got into this series with the Knicks, he started to surpass him, like I said. And Derek White always has one series where he goes ballistic, and I think we're probably past that series. He's still good for maybe 2.5 in this one, but I think Halliburton's good for 3 per game.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's taken fewer 2-point attempts than 6 guys on the Pacers in these playoffs. So yeah, he's like over 60% of his attempts are coming from beyond the arc because, as you said, like he understood he needs to impact the game, and he's not really a scorer inside the arc. Like he actually had a Ben Simmons moment or two in that Game 7 where he's like, dude, that's a layup. But he kicked it out. So that's where he's hunting his shots. He's probably going to continue to take double-digit threes in every game that he can. And he's quick enough to get it off. And so that's the thing. Like as good as Derek White is with a quick release, like he's playing in his system that when it's humming, like he's got plenty of other guys that can get a good shot and they play that 5-eye style. They will get it with that sense of spread outness, as you put it. And then defensively, the Celtics, like they're aware that there's better shooters by percentage than Halliburton out there, right? I mean, Turner, Nemhard, Shepard are shooting like 46%, but they need space and time to get that shot off. So like they're gonna live with Halliburton taking some of his step backs. He's not gonna be in as good rhythm necessarily as he was with the Knicks when they couldn't, keep their wind. But yeah, I think they'll live with him hoisting a ton and be like, all right, you can hijack your offense like that all you want, and we're gonna beat you with balance.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And that's going to have to be what it is, man. There's going to have to be a little bit lack of balance in the shooting when it comes to this Pacers squad. All that'll do is set up other guys to be a bit more open. But it starts with that threat from deep for Halliburton. So that is all the time we have for you, though. In this one, we've got these series props up. Also have the series futures. And we're getting right into game one for Pacers and Celtics on Tuesday night. So continue to follow along and subscribe to that page. Until we see you next, happy betting.